Master elements.
Racism, white supremacy is a dynamic system for the ultimate purpose of white genetic survival on the planet. White supremacy.
You are in an evil system, a system that is designed deliberately to produce evil thoughts, to produce animosity, to produce violence.
Introduction to African civilizations and man-garden civilization.
Master elements. Master elements.
To dedicate lives to the study of history.
They didn't tell us that if you give up the man, you're going to take one of these things and it's worse and it will destroy your nation.
The right way is clearly distinct from error.
Racism is a competitive relationship between groups of people who are competing for the ownership and control of resources, wealth, and power.
Master elements.
It's the Ticket Plug. We've been running an online ticket business for over a decade, and now we've created an easy way for you to do the same thing through our private ticket resale community. Joining our community will give you a way to flip your bread and generate profit income consistently. We provide you with all the tools, training, and resources needed to start your life-changing online ticket business. Zero experience needed. To join our ticket resale community, go to thetickettrap.com. Again, go to thetickettrap.com. That's thetickettrap.com.
And those Africans have to be organized to fight for liberation.
GW Apparel, a clothing that speaks. Something for the kings, something for the queens. Visit uptsites.com and use promo code SLDG22 and receive 11% off your order. Peace.
Yeah, like that. Let's see what's in the God's mind. Listen.
We gonna see what's in the God's mind. Listen. I'm Allah in the person of sincere letter God. How y'all doing this evening? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Sincere Love the Godcast. I'm Allah in the person of sincere letter God, as you already know, or in case you didn't already know. I am Allah in the person of sincere letter God. That is me. And I am here on a solo mission tonight. Shout out to my lovely co-host, Nicey Girl. She is not with me tonight, but I am here for the family. I am here for y'all. So what's going on with y'all? And yeah, this is not a regular night that we usually do broadcasts or anything. This is something that I just wanted to do to get some stuff off. That I've been seeing a lot of activity lately, a lot of conversations lately online surrounding what I'm gonna call the Latino problem, or should I call it the Hispanic problem, or is it the Spanish problem? I'm really not sure which terminology we should use to refer to this problem, but we definitely having a problem with a certain group of people as it pertains to group politics. You know what I'm saying? And so I wanted to do a breakdown tonight talking about the identity shuffle that takes place within the Hispanic, Latino, Spanish, Latinx community, all of these different terms to refer to this particular group, and how it pertains to us in foundational Black American society. our politics, so on and so forth. And I really wanted to get into this because, like I said, there was a few things popping up, different conversations online, which got me thinking, and it had me thinking about a lot of people that I know personally, especially where I'm from in New York, where I grew up at. A lot of people that I know personally are a little confused about this conversation, and they're not sure about where we're coming from when we speak on there not being a black and brown coalition. A lot of people are still under that illusion that there's some type of black and brown coalition that exists. A lot of people are not understanding why we having this conversation around the true origins of hip hop and how we've been checking the Puerto Ricans for trying to claim co-creation is something that they didn't have anything to do with from the beginning. How we're letting people know that they are guests within our culture and all of that. A lot of this has some of our people who are not necessarily tapped in to our circles, you know what I'm saying, as far as being in the new black media, B1 and all of that. A lot of people are not all the way tapped in to the current dialogue and the current lexicon, but the conversation is spreading like wildfire across social media platforms. So they are hearing remnants of the conversation, but they don't really have the full context of what we're talking about. And I can understand where they're coming from because, like I said, me growing up, coming from where I come from, we never looked at particularly Puerto Ricans as like a other. We kind of almost saw, we know there was a difference, of course. Culturally, we understood that there was somewhat of a difference there, but we kind of looked at them like black people. You know what I'm saying? Growing up in New York, you know what I'm saying? We kind of looked at them like where I'm from. I can't speak on every single part of New York. I'm not from the boroughs, by the way. I'm from upstate, Middletown, New York. And so where I'm from, a lot of us, we grew up together side by side with Puerto Ricans and blacks. You know what I'm saying? And you know, you got your what we refer to as white Latinos, and you got some black Latinos. You know what I'm saying? Now, I grew up with both. You know what I'm saying? You got people that look like Fat Joe, and then you got some people that might look like Carmelo Anthony. You know what I'm saying? But they both Puerto Rican. You know what I'm saying? And they grew up around us. They grew up in the same neighborhoods as us. A lot of times living in the same building and all that, going to the same schools, different stuff like that. And so growing up, we kind of looked at ourselves as the same people, one group of people. We definitely didn't look at them as white. You know what I'm saying? Even the you know, the Jennifer Lopez looking ones, the Fat Joe looking ones, we never looked at them as being white. So I remember when Tariq Nasheed first started talking about this, I would say 2016, 2017, somewhere around there. Where he really started talking about how there was no black and brown coalition and started using the term white Latino a lot. I remember when that conversation first really started bubbling up online, and I was like, you know, I was kind of like, you know, I had to listen in good to see where that was coming from myself. I quickly got it. I quickly understood what it was because I had enough of a foundation. And again, I was tapped in to the sources. I was tapped into the information. So it wasn't anything. It took me long to be like, okay, I understand exactly what's going on here. But terms like white, Hispanic, and all of that was totally new. I didn't realize how many of them identified themselves as being white on their identification and their paperwork and all of that. I never knew that. I thought they looked at themselves the same way like we looked at them, like almost like being like one of us. You know what I'm saying? So I remember around that time, like I said, 2016, 2017, somewhere around there, with me being awakened to that reality. You know what I'm saying? And so, like I said, when I think about the people who are from that same space that I'm from, who are not privy to the information the way that I am, and I understand why they might be a little confused and even to a certain degree, somewhat offended. Peace. Shout out to Nicety Girl in the building. Shout out to my co-host. Everybody say peace to Nicety Girl in the chat. And by the way, man, as y'all coming in here, y'all make sure y'all hit the like button for me. Make sure that y'all hit that like button, because when you hit the like button, that helps to boost the video into the YouTube algorithm. And it also helps to make sure that people who are subscribed to this channel do indeed get the notifications whenever we go live. Actually, I'm broadcasting right now simultaneously on both channels, Sincere Love to God, as well as Godcast Enterprises. So make sure that you hit the subscribe button on both channels, as well as the notification bell, so you could be reminded whenever we go live with new episodes of Sincere Love to Godcast. We usually go live around 6 p.m. on Eastern Standard Time on Sundays, where we talk about current events and other issues that we find to be important as they pertain to what's going on in foundational Black American society. And also on Wednesdays around this time, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have the Black Business Showcase, where we bring on business owners and entrepreneurs and chop up some good game about business. So if you're a business owner or entrepreneur and you would like to be featured on our channel, hit me up in the DM. I'm at Sincere Love to God on all social media platforms. You can hit up my co-host at Nicety Girl with the number 1 on Instagram, without the number 1 on X, formerly known as Twitter. Or you can send us an email at godcastenterprises@gmail.com. Let us know what you got going on so we can coordinate everything and get you on the schedule for the Black Business Showcase. Shout out to my brother Chevy's R Us in the building. Appreciate you tapping in, King. Appreciate you tapping in. So yeah, again, everybody like, share, subscribe, all of that good YouTube stuff. So like I said, today we talking about the 3-card Monte game that a lot of the so-called brown people like to play. They do this identity shuffle, depending on whatever is convenient for them at the time is how they choose to identify. You know what I'm saying? So they brown when it's convenient. You know what I'm saying? We're going to talk about some of these terms, Latino, Hispanic, Spanish, and why they're used and how they came about and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to read a couple of articles for y'all. I'm going to play some audio for y'all because I want to put everything in context for why I even decided to do this broadcast in the first place. And so one of the things was, and I think I'll go here first, actually. What's going on, Mama Love? Mama Love in the building. Everybody say peace to Mama Love. Everybody say peace to Mama Love in the building. So I think I'll go here first, actually. Where's that at? I'll go here first because this was a post that initially got the wheels turning in my head for this broadcast right here. And shout out to our sister Brooke, Brooke.az on Instagram. That's our sister out there. She had posted this a couple of days ago on Instagram, and this is what got me thinking about this subject here. So let me share this with y'all. Let me share this with y'all right here. So our sister Brooke posted this on Instagram. And again, make sure y'all following our sister. She's at Brooke.az, and Brooke is spelled Breuck. Breuck.az on Instagram. Everybody make sure that they following her. That's our good on code sister. She drops a lot of good content as well. I think she got a YouTube channel too. I don't know the YouTube channel offhand, but I believe she has a YouTube channel as well. So just follow her on Instagram. I'm pretty sure there's a link in the bio or something like that where you can get tapped in with everything that she got going on. But again, I'm going to play this because this is what got the wheels turning for me in the first place to come and do this broadcast. And so I don't know if you're watching this on your phone or whatever, you might not be able to see it that good, but it says, there was no such thing as Hispanic or Latino. That was created to latch onto minorities' affirmative action. So as y'all know, that term minority has gotten us into a lot of trouble over the years. That term minority has put us into a trick bag over the years. And this has been a big part of the benign neglect strategy practiced by, both sides of the political spectrum, Republicans and Democrats, but particularly by the Democrats, the left wing of white supremacy, particularly by them, because again, as y'all know, we have been their voting base for the past 60 years. You know what I'm saying? And so they have deliberately introduced these ambiguous terms to make us feel like we're being included in some type of tangible, some type of program, some type of policies or anything that was going to be implemented into society that was supposed to be beneficial for minorities or whatever, you know what I'm saying, marginalized people, all of these different broad terms that they started to introduce to give us the illusion of inclusion, when in reality it really meant everybody accept us. And around that same time is really when the floodgates got opened up for immigration real heavy in this country, for a lot of non-European immigration in this country. We started to get flooded with a lot of different immigrant groups from non-European places around this time as well. And what they were doing was they were creating a buffer class. They were creating a buffer class to be placeholders in between us, foundational Black Americans, and the white supremacists who pretty much run the show, right? And so they needed a buffer class to kind of make the machine work smoothly, to make it to be a well-oiled machine, so that it wouldn't be this constant resistance and this constant uprisings and things like that. Because we was turning up during the 60s, going into the early 70s and all that. We was turned up. It was a lot of revolts taking place, you know what I'm saying, a lot of rebellions taking place all throughout this country for foundational Black Americans, trying to get our weight up. And so they countered a lot of that with these benign neglect policies and by creating these buffer classes to come on in. And so this was something that was real slick that they did. And so what they were saying here on the title of the video was how these terms, there was no such thing as Hispanic or Latino. That was created to latch on to minorities' affirmative action. So listen to this elder, I think she's Puerto Rican. This Puerto Rican lady right here explain about her growing up in the 1950s and all of that. Check this out.
The high school you went to?
Roy Miller High School.
Roy Miller. What was Roy Miller like?
I became the first Hispanic cheerleader there.
Really? What year about?
950, 51.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, in other words, Roy Miller wasn't exactly integrated.
No, I didn't know when the Blacks joined Miller High School, because when I was there, they didn't go there. And let me backtrack a little bit. Mm-hmm. When we moved to the Navarro Housing Project, we used to play, it was during the summer, so there was a lot of Black kids there. And then here on the side of the tracks, on the other side of the tracks were the military trailers, because we were training pilots here. Mm-hmm. And they were all white. So they became friends with my mom through the fence, the ladies did, and the kids would come over and play with us on the playground. Mm-hmm. So we were a tri-ethnic group playing together during the summer. But then when school started, all my white friends were there and we were there, but the Black kids weren't there. Mm. And when we came, one afternoon when they came to play with us again at the park, I said, "Where were you?" And they said, "We went to school." "No, you weren't there. Don't lie. We didn't see you." Says, "Yes, we did." "No, you didn't." Mm-hmm. A girl was named Aisha, I think Aisha, and her brother. And they said, "We did go to school." I said, "Where did you go to school?" "The school's right here. You live across the park," because they lived on the other side of the park. Mm-hmm. And I said, "You didn't go to school. Don't lie." They said, "Yeah. What school do you go to anyway?" And they said, "Oh, we have to walk." "Walk where?" "Solomon Coles." I said, "Where is it?" "It's way across town." "Well, why can't you come here?" "Because we're not allowed to." And I said, "Who says?" He said, "Well, parents said we can't go there with you." And I went home and I told my mom, I said, "Mom, how come Aisha and her brother can't go to school with us? They go all the way across town. They had to." So y'all get the point, right? So she's talking about the segregation, how the schools were segregated in the 1950s. And, she was confused as a child because she would go outside and play with her friends, and it was white kids who were staying on the military base that was over there, and the Black kids that lived in the same projects as her. They was all outside playing together, but when it was time to go to school, she didn't understand why the Black kids wasn't there, right? And so this wasn't in the South, mind you. This is not in the South, mind you. You know how they always like to try to regulate or relegate
all of the racism and the segregation and all that to the South. All of the Jim Crow stuff, they try to make it seem like all of that stuff was only in the South. But no, right? So anyway, that was the video that kind of got the wheel spinning for me to do this broadcast right here. So I definitely wanted to start it off with that one right there, just to give y'all the context, so you know exactly where my mind was at. But then there was a few other things that was going on social media. A couple of people that was popping up on Tariq's space on X, formerly known as Twitter, who had a couple of things to say about this topic right here. And so one was this brother right here. There was a brother that came on there, and he was talking about basically how these Hispanics, Latinos, Spanish, whatever they decide to call themselves on any given day of the week, how these are our enemies, and we got to watch out for them and all of that, right? And then there was a lady that came on. I'm not going to play the whole thing when the lady came on and all that, but there was a lady that came on after him, and she was like kind of like the people who, to me, is the target audience for this message that I'm delivering tonight. She came on there and she was like, "Nah, I don't agree with that. I had some Mexican people working on my roof, and they did a good job, and they just hardworking people and blah 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 blah." So she didn't understand where homie was coming from with it, and so I was like, "Yeah, I think it is incumbent upon me to get on here and try to bring as much clarity to this conversation as possible." You know what I'm saying? Because if there's not clarity, if there's confusion, it's hard to have progress, because a lot of those people will rebel just out of plain emotions, right? They're not able to assess the situation for what it really is, and just out of plain emotion, because they like, yo, I got Hispanic friends that I'm cool with. You know what I'm saying? I got Hispanic in-laws and stuff like that. They ain't our enemies. Blah, blah. They looking at it like we're being the troublemakers. You know what I'm saying? And so that's the reason why I really want to clear some of this up, because I kind of understand where some of them are coming from. You know what I'm saying? I have a lot of Spanish dudes that I'm cool with, a lot of Spanish people in general, dudes and females that I'm cool with, got real good relationships with and all that. You know what I'm saying? But we got to understand there's a difference between group politics and relationships that you have in your personal life. You know what I'm saying? When we talking about, this is a political movement. This is a socio-political movement. You know what I'm saying? This is a group politic thing that we're trying to get straight. So it's not about the personal relationships that you may have with somebody from another group. I got cool people that are white. You know what I'm saying? Don't mean that we ain't going to talk about white supremacy. Don't mean we don't have a problem with white supremacy just because there's some cool white people, right? So same thing here. So this is what the brother got on Tariq's space and was saying, which further made me know that it was time to have this conversation with y'all.
You hear me, brother?
Yes, sir. How are you?
I'm a survivor, brother. How about yourself on this night?
I'm surviving too, man. What's on your mind, sir?
Right here. Hold on.
So anyway, brother, I see up in the title you got Ryan Garcia's racism. Well, Tyreek, we gotta remember this. This man is Hispanic, and when you look at South America all the way up to Mexico, I mean, these cultures are extremely anti-black, which would make us want to support, strong immigration laws. Yes. Let me tell you something about these Hispanics. When these Hispanics come here, which most of them come through the fucking border any fucking way, when they come here, it makes them sick to their stomach that black people are driving nice cars, living in nice homes, when the black people back in their home countries are oppressed systematically, segregation. These Hispanics are not used to seeing black people live this damn good, because if we're being honest, as Black Americans, we're the only blacks on this earth who do have top luxuries. You can say everything you want about how we live over here. If you take our conditions, compare it to anybody across the world, we live like fucking kings compared to majority of the world. And it drives these Hispanics crazy. Now, I don't care about the Hispanics. If a day and time comes where ICE says if you see illegals Call us. You damn right. I'm calling damn ICE. I'm calling ICE on the factories. I'm calling ICE on these little damn Chinese restaurants. I'm calling ICE when they like to hang out at fucking Home Depot. These Hispanics are extremely anti-black, and you see across this country, they're trying to insert black political power. But the thing about it is, a lot of people like to use the Hispanic population against us. What people fail to realize is that Black Americans are one ethnic group. We're just
right. And so this is a real problem, family. This is a real problem that the brother was pointing out. This is some real shit. Remember in that Zoom call where Joe Biden and them civil rights rejects, when he was giving them a tongue lashing on that Zoom call, and he was talking to them, really talking to all of us. Really, he was addressing black society at large when he said, we're going to have to get used to dealing with the Hispanics. When he said how America is doomed. Remember that? When we talk about how America is doomed, not just because of black people, but because pretty soon America's going to become a minority white country. And the Hispanics are the ones that we're going to have to deal with. So in order for us to get through to the levels of power, in order for us to break through to get any type of tangibles and resources and things that we need for our society, we're going to have to go through the Hispanics. You know what I'm saying? That's what Joe Biden was saying on that Zoom call, right? And so like the brother was saying, they like to use these groups against us. Why? Because they understand that they have anti-black racism embedded in their own cultures in the countries where they come from. You can visit anywhere in Latin America, anywhere, you know what I'm saying, any Spanish-speaking countries and territories. The dark-skinned people that you see there, they live in the ghettos, they live in the barrios, and they live in the favelas. The people that you see in the Spanish media that are in the Spanish television, what is it? Univision, and what is that shit called? I forgot the name of their channel, but where they showed like the Spanish soap operas and all of that. The people that they show and they billboards and on their television shows and their media and all of that are the ones who look closer to being European. The ones who look closer to being European. The ones that look like me, and you, those are the ones that are marginalized in those countries. And so a lot of them that come over here, they come over here with that mentality. We know that they have sayings in their culture like mejorar la raza and all of that, meaning improve the race, blanqueamiento, meaning whiten up the race and all of that. This is part of their culture to try as much as they can to assimilate into whiteness, to get as much away from their African ancestry as they can. That's the reason why they claim Spanish, because Spanish implies Spain, which is in Europe. So they're trying to identify with being Europeans. They have African ancestry as well, but you don't hear them referring to themselves as any type of African anything. They refer to themselves as being Spanish or Hispanic, which associates them in their mind with Spain. But really all they are is subjects of Spain. They are people who were colonized by Spain. They're not accepted in Spain as being Spanish. You know what I'm saying? They look at them damn near like they look at us. No different. But they try their best to blanqueamiento, to mejorar la raza. That's their culture. That's their mentality. When it's convenient, though, because at other times, they want to be the brown people. Whenever they see that they can latch on to something that's supposed to benefit us over here, foundational Black Americans. Anytime there's something that's supposed to benefit us, whether it be some type of affirmative action program or whatever the case may be, all of a sudden they brown and they minorities and all of that, so that they can latch on and drain the resources that we're supposed to get. All right. So that's what I mean by this identity shuffle. You know, whenever it's convenient, whatever's going to work for them politically, whatever's going to work for them on a social level, whatever's going to get them more resources, more acceptance, more visibility, or whatever it is, then that's what they latch on to. You know, they'll acknowledge their African ancestry when it's convenient, but for the most part, they try to distance themselves from that. You know, oh, I'm black too. You know, I got my abuela is black. You know, whenever we start talking about hip hop is our culture, and it ain't really got nothing to do with them, then you start hearing that talk. Oh, we all black. We all from Africa anyway. It's all African anyway. The drums is from Africa. Blah, blah, blah. Now we all the same. You know what I'm saying? That's that identity shuffle. That's that 3-card Monte. Right. Truth. America will be minority Caucasian country as time goes on. Their reproduction slowing down as time passes. That's a fact. That's a fact. Right? So let me see. What else was it that I wanted to share with y'all? So I think I should go into some of these terms, the origin of some of these terms. Right? No, not yet. We'll get there in a minute. What's this right here? Okay, that was her joint. What's this right here? There was another space that Greek had. Hold on, let me find that other one. There was another space. This one right here. Yeah. This is another example of what I'm talking about right here with this space that Tariq had. Hold on a second. Let me show y'all this one. This is another example of what I'm talking about right here. And if you're just coming in, by the way, make sure you hit the like button, share this out, let everybody know on social media that I'm live right now. We talking about the 3-card Monte game, the Hispanic identity shuffle. This is another example of what we're talking about right here with one of the people that called up to Tariq's space. Check it out.
Another thing, I think just like you with FBAs and trying to delineate from.
Okay, let me rewind this a little bit.
Are you a Hispanic gentleman?
Hey, there we go.
Yeah,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, you need to change your smoke detector. Now, are you Colombian, Mexican? What are you?
Well, see, that's another thing. I think just like you with FBAs and trying to delineate from, like.
Hold on.
From African American term.
Hold on. Are you Colombian, Mexican? What are you?
I'm from Texas. There's basically our own ethnic group called Tejanos. I don't know if you've ever heard of that.
So he's saying, he's talking about how. Oh, you said I was breaking up? Oh, probably, yeah. Whenever I be sharing the screens and stuff like that, it goes through like a little glitchy thing. But am I good? Y'all type a number 7 in the chat if I'm my audio and my video and all of that is good. Y'all let me know in the chat. But he's talking about delineating on the Hispanic side of things now, right? He's talking about how he likes to delineate and make a difference between, he don't want to refer to himself as being Hispanic, right? Tariq is asking him, oh, so you're a Hispanic gentleman, right? And he's like, well, the same way you guys delineate and make a difference between foundational Black Americans and other melanated ethnic groups, we like to delineate too. I'm from a group called the Tejanos, I think he said they was called, the Tejanos down there in Texas. And we're going to get into where he was going with that in a second. I'm going to let him finish. But he's talking about delineating when the term Hispanic came about basically as a pan-Latino term, an all-inclusive term for these different Spanish-speaking groups, right? That's where the term Hispanic came from in the first place. It was created for political reasons to be an all-inclusive term that would be an umbrella term for all these different Spanish-speaking groups. Because like the other brother in the first space I was just playing a minute ago was explaining foundational Black Americans, us, we are one group. It's not you a different ethnic group if you from the East Coast or if you from the West Coast or if you from the South or whatever. We all foundational Black Americans, no matter which part of the country that we come from. But for them, they have different ethnic groups within the Hispanic umbrella, depending on which part of Latin America they come from. So Puerto Ricans and Mexicans have different cultures. It's similar. They speak the same language, although they may speak it a little differently. Some of their food is different. Some of the music is a little different. Their cultures are really different. These are different groups of people. But the Hispanic term was like a reverse, like the opposite of a delineation thing. It was created to bring them together to have more numbers and more reinforcement to get their political weight up. And so now this guy's on here talking about delineating and not identifying under that umbrella. He's saying us down here in Texas, we're our own unique ethnic group. So again, this is that identity shuffle. Whenever it's convenient, they like to play 3-card Monte with the identity, depending on the circumstances and the situation and how they feel they're going to benefit from it one way or the other. So let me let him talk a little bit more. And Tariq clowning them, of course, but
the Tejano Indians?
No, Tejano, Tejano.
Oh, okay. So you're Mexican.
Basically.
Yeah, but just like you with the FBA delineation, I don't like to put that Mexican label on me, because.
So his people are from Mexico, but he doesn't want to identify as a Mexican. And he's trying to compare that to us with the FBA delineation movement. But like Tariq pointed out, no, but we still identify as Americans. This is our country. We are a unique ethnic group because we different than Jamaicans, we different than Haitians, we different than Nigerians or Congolese or whatever. The same way that they're all different from each other, we're different too. We have our own unique culture, we have our own unique history, and we have our own unique grievance with the U.S. government. So we differentiate, we make a difference, we delineate in order to get the data straight, in order to get what we're supposed to get from this government, us specifically, because everybody is not owed what we're owed just because they so happen to be melanated. You know what I'm saying? So this guy is over here really shuffling that deck. He's really shuffling that Hispanic deck. Let me let him finish a little bit more.
Why not? Really? Well, because I think that
because I put
my ancestors have been here.
Okay, because I put the American label on me.
Now listen, you heard what he said? Let me bring that back a little bit. You heard what he said right there? Because Tariq asked him why he doesn't want to identify as Mexican. Yeah, his people are from Mexico, but he's saying he doesn't want to identify as Mexican. So Tariq asked him why. Listen to what he said.
I put
my ancestors have been here.
Okay,
he said because my ancestors have been here. So why is he saying that now? Because this is another thing that I wanted to point out to the family, because this is something that they really trying to do here. They are trying to stake a claim as some type of like foundational group to the United States. They're trying to weasel their way because they see our delineation movement. They see us circling our wagons around our unique history and culture. And they see the momentum that we're getting because we're standing on truth. That's the reason why we have so much momentum, because it's based on our actual history here. You know what I'm saying? Us being the oldest ethnic group here, us being the true foundation of this country, because there was no United States until we built it. And so now everybody's trying to find a way. You got all of the tethers, the melanated tethers, who are trying to find a way to latch on to our identity somehow, some way. And now you have these Hispanics who are trying to weasel their way into being considered part of the foundation of America as well, trying to make themselves comparable to us. So he said, Yeah, my people from Mexico, but nah, we're not Mexicans. We Tejanos. We from Texas, meaning the United States of America. He said, because my family been here, right? So remember, certain parts of Texas, California, Arizona, different parts of the country used to be a part of Mexico, right? And so they made a deal with the U.S. government, and they sold parts of their land off to become a part of what is now the 52 states of the United States of America. They made a deal with the government and sold off parts of it. And so they're talking about the people who were already on that land when that purchase was made. So he's saying the Tejanos, they were already there. You know what I'm saying? So this is them, like I said, trying to weasel their way into some type of claim of being a part of the foundation of the country. But that doesn't work, because in order for the purchase to be made, the country had to already be established. There had to already be a United States already had to be established, and there might not have been all the way the whole 52 states quite yet. You know what I'm saying? They made some expansions, theretofore, but there had to be an established nation already in place in order for that transaction to happen. So you can't be the foundation of a country that already exists. Again, there was no United States of America until we built it. So you can't really try to weasel yourself in there and compare yourself to us. We different. We different. We are the founders of the United States of America. But that's what he's trying to do here. I wanted to point that out.
American label on me, and that's where my lineage goes. So you don't like to put the Mexican label on yourself because y'all haven't been here that long,
though. No, well, I mean, because the U.S. pretty much took a lot of the Southwest from Mexico.
No,
right? So
no. They didn't. They were in a war, and then Mexico sold that portion for $15 million. That's the same price that.
So yeah, Tariq cleared that up about, because he tried to say they took it or whatever the case may be. No, y'all made a deal. The Spanish are joining these the Spanish are joining these white nationalist groups too. Now, when you say Spanish, you got to clarify, because again, we going through this here with these different terms. When you say Spanish, what do you mean? Who are you talking about? I know what you mean, but you got to bring some clarity, because there's a lot of confusion based on these terms. Because again, Spanish means Spain. In order to be Spanish, that means your lineage goes back to Spain, right? But that's not the people that you're referring to. You're talking about people who are the subjects of Spain. You're talking about Spanish-speaking people, Puerto Ricans, Mexicans, Latinos. Right. There you go. The Latinos, the Puerto Ricans, the Cubans, the Mexicans. Those, yes, you're right. A lot of them are joining with these far-right white supremacist groups. Right. That's an actual fact. That's an actual fact. Never forget, George Zimmerman was a Hispanic, right? People like Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio and a lot of these white Latinos in the right wing of white supremacy and all of that. And like you said, part of these extremist groups as well. I forget some of the names of these people. Forgot the name of that dude, man. I think he was part of one of those white supremacist groups. I get the white supremacist groups mixed up because I don't really differentiate. They all the same to me. But I think he was part of Storm Front. What was they called? I forgot what they was called. But there's a lot of them though. Exactly. Look at the LA City Council a couple years ago. Yes, we ain't forget about that. Look at LAPD and those white supremacist deputy gangs out there. A lot of them are white Hispanics. Yeah, the Proud Boys, one of them. The 3%ers, they all the same. They all the same. But yeah, that's a fact. That's a good point. And so, all right, let me go here now. I think it was. Is it this one? Let me see if I got the right article here. See if I got the right article here, because I want to piggyback on what dude was trying to say with that whole, my people are for Mexican, but I don't use the Mexican label and all of that. Let me see. Let me make sure I got the right article. Which one is this? Which one is this? Yeah, I think this is them. Like I said, this is them trying to claim to be some type of foundational group to the United States. So in this article here, it's called The Invisible Latino in America. So let me read some of this, and I'm not going to read the entire thing, but let me read some of this to y'all. The Invisible Latino in America. This is on the aspeninstitute.org. And I should have put some of these links in the description for y'all. I might have to do it after I get off the live. Just include all of the links so you guys can go and check out the full articles and stuff for yourselves. But the Invisible Latino in America, this is from 2019. So let me see. The Tom Brokaw is just the latest media personality ignorant of the breadth of Latino contributions to this fine country to speak out. His comments on Meet the Press asserting that Hispanics, Latino, American Latino, and Hispanics are used interchangeably here. So they're pointing out right there, they said Hispanics. And before they continued, they put in parentheses, Latino, American Latino, and Hispanic are used interchangeably here. So again, this is them with the 3-card Monte thing. This is them with the 3-card Monte thing. So they said they should work hard at assimilating, was rightly received with outrage and backlash from the Latino community. So Tom Brokaw made some statement about how white Latinos need to assimilate and become more American. And he received a lot of backlash from the Latino community. So remember, in the sentence before, the writer said Hispanic. His comment asserting that Hispanic should work harder at assimilating. And she said was rightly received. I think it was a she. Is this a she or who wrote this? Abigail. Yeah, Abigail Golden wrote this. He said, she said, she started off saying, on Meet the Press, Tom Brokaw asserted that Hispanics should work harder at assimilating. And then she says it was rightfully received with outrage and backlash from the Latino community. So again, those terms being used interchangeably, although they have different meanings. By the way, family, they do have different meanings. They're really not as interchangeable the way that they use them. They're not as interchangeable as they make it seem. So anyway, let me continue. She said, though Latinos represent nearly 1 in 5 Americans today and are projected to account for nearly 1 in 3 Americans by 2060, there is very little in our public dialogue that accurately represents who we are and what we contribute to this nation. So again, this is them trying to sell themselves as being, like I said, first of all, part of the foundation of the United States of America, and she's going to get into that in a little bit. But also, they trying to sell them as themselves as being indisposable to a certain degree, as being very much needed in order for America to be great, in order for America to be what it is. It wouldn't be what it is without us Hispanics. This is what they're selling here. This is why we need to be accepted for who we are. Because remember, let me remind y'all. Back in the days, the biggest, I think LULAC is, I think they still like the biggest Hispanic organization out there, a Hispanic advocacy organization out there. But back in the days, United States had put, and I forgot what year this was. I want to say it was like in the 1940s or something like that. They have gave them their own racial category in the U.S. Census. They were going to put Mexican American on the U.S. Census. And the Mexicans fought back. The LULAC organization fought back for them to be classified as white. They said, no, we don't want our own classification. There was like dude on Tariq's space right there. We don't want to be called Mexicans. They were fighting for the right to be classified as white. Right? But here they are now today. Now that they feel like they got their weight up, you know what I'm saying? They're supposed to be the new majority, minority, and all of that. And a lot of them are in political positions and this, that, and the third. So now they're pushing back from the white supremacists who want them to assimilate. Before they were trying to assimilate. No, we white. We white just like you. I want to be white just like me and you, remember? I don't want to be Hispanic anymore. No, I don't want to gangbang no more. I'm not Mexican. I'm white just like me and you. They was on that shit before. And so now Tom Brokaw was telling them, y'all need to do better at assimilating. Meaning y'all bringing too much of that Spanish culture, that Hispanic culture, that Latino culture. Y'all bringing too much of that shit with y'all over here. Y'all need to learn how to speak English. You know what I'm saying? Take off the sombreros. Start being white. This is what the white community was trying to tell them. We bringing y'all over here so we can look like our numbers are better, because our numbers as white people are suffering and we need reinforcements. So we're allowing you white passing Hispanics to come over here because we need to pretend that y'all white just like us so that we can still appear to be the majority number wise. But y'all acting too damn ethnic. So y'all need to start assimilating more. And now they feel like they got their weight up where they like, no. Yeah, we don't mind being a little white. We definitely still want a little whiteness. If you know, you can sprinkle some of that whiteness over here, but we holding on to our culture though. We're not trying to let go of our sombreros and our Spanish and our tacos and all of that. No, we still trying to hold tight to our culture. So they pushing back a little bit because they feel like they got their weight up. So let me carry on. Let me continue on. Hold on. The Latinos represent. Let me see. Where was I? So she said, there's very little in our public dialogue that accurately represents who we are and what we contribute to this nation. Locked into one-dimensional narratives about immigration or neglected in our primary black and white narratives of America. Latinos, listen to this. Latinos, like Native Americans and Asians, are rarely see themselves represented at all, let alone accurately. So she said, I agree with Tom Brokaw on one thing. Latinos today are not assimilating. So again, this is them pushing back against the assimilation. A word that implies leaving our culture behind and adopting the dominant culture instead. She said, instead, we are acculturating. We learn English, adopt cultural norms, serve in the military at higher ratios than any other group. Again, they selling themselves as being invaluable, as being indisposable at higher ratios than other groups. We value education and hard work as a path to mobility, but increasingly, we also value and maintain our language and roots, bringing great richness to this country. So they saying, yeah, we're going to be white, but we're going to be white Hispanics. We're going to be white Hispanics. All right. So the common narrative, check this out. This goes along with what old boy was saying on the thesis. Right. The common narrative is that Latinos are immigrants who don't speak English and take jobs from real Americans. So this is why, and it says, quote unquote, real Americans, by the way, quote unquote, real Americans. This is why old boy was saying he didn't want to identify as Mexican, because being Mexican puts him in the immigrant category. But he's saying my family been here. So he's trying to say we're non-immigrants, as what were they called? Tajinos or whatever he said they was called down there. He said us Tajinos, we're not immigrants. This is our country, is what he's trying to say. So again, the common narrative is that Latinos are immigrants who don't speak English and who take jobs from quote unquote real Americans. In fact, listen to this. The growth in Latino population today is driven by U.S. births. Again, that's them trying to say we're not immigrants. Hispanics become English dominant by second generation. In 2016, Hispanics accounted for 16.8% of the labor force and are net drivers of new business growth, surpassing any other group, including non-Hispanic white Americans. They saying, look, white mommy and daddy, we doing better than y'all. We doing better than y'all. You know what I'm saying? They trying to be the new colonizers. You understand, family? This is why the conversation about hip hop is so important, because that's what that's about. Them trying to lay claim to being co-creators of hip hop is going to turn into them saying we got it from them. That's them trying to steal our culture away. This is them trying to be the new colonizers. Huh? It sounds to me like they done playing second fiddle. They feel like they got enough numbers and they got enough political clout that they trying to shake off the Anglos and they want to be the new big dogs. Listen to what she's saying, family. Listen to what she's saying. Let me read that again. The common narrative is that Latinos are immigrants who don't speak English and take jobs from quote unquote real Americans. In fact, the growth in Latino population today is driven by U.S. births. Hispanics become English dominant by second generation. In 2016, Hispanics account for 16.8% of the labor force and are net drivers of new business growth, surpassing any other group, including non-Hispanic white Americans. America's growth would look a lot more like Europe's were it not for Latinos. So this is them again telling the Anglo whites, y'all might want to get y'all weight up. We doing a little bit better than y'all now. This is what she's saying. This is what she's saying. So again, you know, if all of this is true and the Latinos, Hispanics, whatever they want to call themselves, are doing so well and they are gaining so much ground and the U.S. political spectrum, so on and so forth, and they're supposed to be a black and brown coalition, then why aren't they using their power, their clout, their influence to help foundational black Americans? They coming over here, they doing great. They doing better than the Anglo whites now. They got their weight up now. Why aren't they using none of that weight to help us if they're supposed to be a black and brown coalition? Again, there is no black and brown coalition. They here to be the new colonizers. Huh? That's what they on. That's the type of time that they on, family. Let me read a little bit more of this article here. If the U.S. is a melting pot, it says, American Latinos are paella. Y'all know what paella is? Paella be slapping, to tell you the truth. That's it's like a seafood rice. It's some Spanish rice with a whole bunch of different seafood in it. So she said, if the U.S. is a melting pot, American Latinos are paella. All right, so it goes on to say, furthermore, Hispanics are not new to this country. So again, this is her saying the same thing that old boy was saying on Tariq Space. Hispanics are not new to this country. The first Hispanics arrived before the Pilgrims did. Huh? First of all, and listen to the turn. Let me read that sentence again. She said the first Hispanics arrived before the Pilgrims did. So this game of three called Monte is serious, family. Them shuffling these identities around is extremely deceptive, and dangerous, family. This is something that we have to watch out for. There was no such thing as a Hispanic when the Pilgrims got here, or before the Pilgrims got here, like she said. There was no such thing as a Hispanic. Hispanic is a relatively new term that came about for political reasons. And we're going to get into another article to break that down in a minute. I just want y'all to understand this. She said Hispanics were here before the Pilgrims. Again, I've been telling y'all, this is them trying to claim some type of foundational status in the U.S. This is them trying to make themselves comparable to us. Let me read some more. The oldest non-Native American city in the U.S. is St. Augustine, founded by the Spanish in 1565. The oldest non-Native American city in the U.S. is St. Augustine, founded by the Spanish in 1565. Listen, if you Puerto Rican, if you Mexican, if you Dominican, Cuban, Guatemalan, Argentinian, Colombian, Nicaraguan, you are not Spanish. They are trying to claim Spain as their motherland when it's convenient now. In this article here, because again, this is her trying to position this. They are paella, like she said, because like I said, paella is Spanish rice mixed with all different types of seafood. And so they trying to bring all of these different Spanish speaking groups together under one umbrella and make it one group, but they're not one group. Like I said earlier, Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Dominicans, these people are not one group. They all have their own unique culture. They just were all colonized by one group, which is the Spanish. Spain is the one that colonized and enslaved their ancestors. And so this is why we say they not like us, because them calling themselves Spanish is them identifying with their enslavers, them identifying with their colonizers. We different. Just because we speak English, because we were dominated and colonized by the English, we don't run around calling ourselves Englishmen. We don't run around calling ourselves Englishmen because we were forced to speak the language of the people who enslaved our ancestors. But that's exactly what they're doing. So this is part of them with the 3-card Monte thing. In this instance, it's convenient for them to claim Spanish, which is European, in order for them to try to say that they were here as long as they're trying to claim that they were here. But again, there were no such thing as Hispanics at that time. And those Spanish people that she's talking about, those were Europeans. Those are white Europeans. And they don't claim none of these people. This lady that's writing this article, and the people that she's advocating for are not claimed by people from Spain. They can't go to Spain. Let me read a little bit more. She said the oldest non-Native American city in the U.S. is St. Augustine, founded by the Spanish in 1565. That ain't got nothing to do with y'all, by the way. And when those Spanish people came over here before 1565, by the way, y'all see the flag in the background. In 1526 is when the first Spanish came over here, and they brought black people with them. They had black Moors that came with them. When they got down there by North Carolina, was it North Carolina, South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia area, and those Moors kicked their ass and sent their ass back out on the ocean, and then they came in and integrated with the other native black people that were already here, and that became the beginning of a new ethnic group, which we now refer to as foundational Black Americans. 1526. But she's trying to claim those Spanish people that was coming here in the 1500s as her ancestors somehow, because she was enslaved by them. So the oldest capital city in the United States is Santa Fe, New Mexico, settled by the Spanish in 1606. The land that makes up all parts of Arizona, California, Colorado, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, and Wyoming was handed over to the United States in the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo in 1848, making the Mexicans in those lands U.S. citizens overnight. What she's forgetting to mention was that they got their ass kicked in the war and they sold off those territories to the United States. Okay? That's what she's failing to mention in that treaty. That's why it was a treaty. This is a deal that you made. So she's trying to say we was already here and all of that. She's trying to claim we was already here. And these are different people that she's referring to, by the way, right? Because she's saying, talking about the Spanish that came over here in 1565, the Spanish colonizers that came over here in 1565. She's claiming them, right? But she's also claiming the Mexicans who were already in the places that are now known as Arizona, California, Colorado, Nevada, New Mexico, Utah, Wyoming, all of these places. The indigenous Mexicans, people that are known now as Mexicans, because there was no such thing as a Mexican back then, but the people that are now known as Mexicans were indigenous to these different parts of what is now the United States of America. She's trying to claim them and claim the colonizers that came over here and terrorized these people. So she's claiming to be the victim and the victor. This is that identity shuffle. This is that identity shuffle, family. Let me see what else she's talking about. I'm gonna keep it moving. I'm gonna keep it moving. And again, I'm gonna leave the links to these articles if y'all want to go check out the full articles yourselves. Y'all could do that. Y'all want to go check out the full articles yourselves, y'all could do that. But this one is on aspeninstitute.org, and the title of it is The Invisible Latino in America. So y'all go check that out. Y'all go read the full article. There's more that we could unpack here, but I want to keep it moving because I got some other articles and stuff to pull up. All right. So let me see. Where we going next? I played both of the clips from the Twitter Spaces, right? I played both of those. All right. So we're gonna go here. We're gonna go here now. And this article is on berkeley.edu. This is from Berkeley. This is from Berkeley News, right? And so I say Hispanic, you say Latino. How did the whole thing start? So this is giving you a little bit of the history, some of the history behind these terms that they try to use interchangeably, although these terms do technically have different meanings and implications behind them, right? They're not really as interchangeable as they try to make it seem. And so some of them may very well be confused about that because a lot of them don't really know their history. But I'm not concerned about whether they're confused or not. I'm concerned about you all, family. I want to make sure that we're not confused about the situation. I want to make sure that we know the difference and understand the difference so that we know how to counteract these things, so that when we hear these terms being used in certain contexts, that we have alarms going off in our head. You understand? Because this is all political warfare, family. This is all political warfare that's being waged against us. And so we're going to have our knowledge up and our education up in order to be able to counter a lot of this stuff. So I say Hispanic, you say Latino. How did the whole thing start? From Cameron Diaz to Cesar Chavez, the labels Hispanic or Latino cover a diverse population of more than 50 million Americans. In her new book, Making Hispanics, sociologist G. Cristina Mora traces how different interests worked together in the 1970s to create a national identity and boost the group's political clout. So that's all that this was ever about, family. These people had nothing in common with each other besides a common colonizer and a common enslaver who forced them all to speak the same language. But other than that, they didn't really have nothing in common with each other. But in order for them to get political clout, they said, let's put it all under one umbrella. Let's put it all under one umbrella. And then they're going to be forced to be reckoned with politically. So, in her new book, U.S. Berkeley sociologist G. Cristina Mora traces the commercial, political, and cultural interests that colluded in the 1970s to create a national Hispanic identity, in turn boosted the political clout of Mexicans, Puerto Ricans, Cubans, Salvadorians, Guatemalans, and other Latin Americans in the United States. I like this article because it's very honest. This is an honest look at what we're dealing with here. A Mexican American from Los Angeles, Mora completed her undergraduate studies at UC Berkeley and her graduate work at Princeton University before returning to UC Berkeley in 2011 as an assistant professor of sociology. Her incisive investigation into pan-ethnicity in her book, Making Hispanics, How Activists, Bureaucrats, and Media Constructed a New America, University of Chicago Press, as well as her related article in this month's edition of the American Sociological Review, is sure to position her as a player in the debate over racial, ethnic, and national identity in the United States, especially as it pertains to Hispanic categories in the 2020 U.S. Census. Here's what Mora had to say about the origins of the Hispanic category and where it's headed. So, how has your personal background shaped your scholarship? Growing up Mexican American in Los Angeles in the 1980s and the 1990s, I wouldn't have been caught dead calling myself Hispanic. This is the sociologist speaking, the one who wrote the book. They interviewing her right here. She said, growing up Mexican American in Los Angeles in the 1980s and 1990s, I wouldn't have been caught dead calling myself Hispanic, quote unquote Hispanic. I called myself Chicana. It was not until I moved to the East Coast in 2003 and was around more Puerto Ricans, Cubans, and South Americans that I realized that the Hispanic or Latino identity means something drastically different on the East Coast than it does on the West Coast. And so this is why I said it was necessary to bring some clarity to this conversation too. Because like I said, growing up in New York, many of us were confused by this. And not just us as Black people, but I'm saying even the Hispanics themselves. There's an identity crisis that confused all of us. Because a lot of y'all that are on the West Coast, a lot of y'all that are from the South and different parts of the country don't relate to our relationships with, particularly with Puerto Ricans coming from New York and shit like that. Y'all like, what the hell? Y'all letting them say nigga and all of this shit? Like, what the hell? Because it was a different thing culturally. It was a different thing the way we grew up side by side together and intermingling to a certain degree. It was a different thing than how y'all experienced it. Because, like she said, over there on the West Coast, as a Mexican, she referred to herself as Chicana. And so on the West Coast, you know, the way I understand it, y'all have y'all own neighborhoods separate from theirs. And there's a lot of tension, you know what I'm saying, between the Mexicans and the Blacks and all of that. Whereas where I grew up at, we lived in the same neighborhood. And us and Puerto Ricans, the only time there was really tension is like in the prisons and shit like that. When you go to prison, everybody get with their own group. You know what I'm saying? But on the streets, a lot of us, we was a part of the same crews and stuff like that. We broke bread together. Like a lot of niggas was cool like that. Like I'll tell y'all a quick story. When I was in Clinton Correctional Facility, it was two dudes from Brooklyn that was in the same unit that I was in. One of them was black, one of them was Puerto Rican. They was both from the same projects in Brooklyn. They grew up together. They was friends on the streets and all of that stuff. Their family used to, what do you call it? They used to get with each other to coordinate the visits and stuff like that. Like their family, like one family would drive this time, the other family would drive the next time. You know, one would call home and be able to send messages to the other one's family. You know, their families knew each other. They from the same projects in Brooklyn. We locked up now. We in Clinton Correctional Facility. They on the same unit together. Everything was cool. They breaking bread together. They eating together. You know, like I said, they going on the visits and all of that stuff. You know, they getting on each other's phone calls. All this different stuff is going on. They cool. And then some shit happened between, I think it was the Bloods. It might have been. I think the black dude was a Blood, if I'm not mistaken. It might have been a Crip, but if my memory serves me correctly, he was claiming Blood. And the Puerto Rican nigga was a Latin King. Or Nieta, one of them. I forgot. This was 20 years ago. You know what I'm saying? But whatever. One was down with a Spanish gang. One was down with a black gang. Even though they was cool with each other, if they was from the same hood. Some shit popped off between the two gangs. There was a beef that took place between the Latin gang and the black gang, whichever ones it was. And being that these two was cool, they didn't want it to be an all-out war. The shot callers got together from the Spanish side and from the black side and was like, yo, they didn't want it to be an all-out war in the jail and all that, because before that, shit was cool. Something had took place between two individuals from both sides that was creating all of this tension. And so they both told these two individuals that I said was from the same hood. The Latin niggas told they man, you pop that nigga head off, or we gonna pop your head off. And then the Blood niggas told the black dude the same thing. You gonna pop your man head off, or we gonna pop your head off. Because we not about to go to war with all of these niggas behind this bullshit. So they made these two niggas go at each other. These niggas who grew up together in the same projects and all that, the same building, whose family was coming to visit them and all of that together and all of that. These niggas had to go at each other. And they did. Shit got bloody, all that. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, that's a quick story just to show y'all an example of what I'm talking about. On the streets, we kind of cool. We kind of interact with each other. It ain't really no thing. But behind the wall, the politics is a little bit different. So I know for y'all out there on the West Coast, it's already like that for y'all on the streets in the first place. You know, so you might be cool with a Mexican here or there, whatever the case may be. But for the most part, they stay to themselves, y'all stay to themselves. So it's a little bit different of the way things went. All right. So where was I? Let me get back to this article. I just went on a little tangent. But hold on. So she was talking about how she called herself Chicana when she was in Mexico. And then when she moved to the East Coast, she got a lot of the Puerto Ricans and all of that. And she saw that it was drastically different on the East Coast than it was on the West Coast. It was then that I started to think deeply about how this label can capture so many people who are radically different from one another. And that story became my PhD dissertation. So what's the gist of your book? They asked her. It's a story about people being disadvantaged, being a statistically reliable group, and being consumers. All of these elements came together in an almost perfect storm in the 1970s when activists, the media, and government bureaucrats learned how to work together to put out this pan-ethnic message. How did this movement start? It was the activists who first went to the Census Bureau and said, you have to create a category. Now, remember, I explained to y'all earlier, back in the 1930s or 40s or whatever it was, the U.S. tried to give Mexicans their own category. It wasn't that much other Hispanic groups in the country back then. Mexicans were the predominant Hispanic, quote unquote, Hispanic group that was in the country back then. So they tried to give them their own category. And they said, no, we don't want to be classified as Mexicans classify us as white. Fast forward to the 1970s, she's explaining how the activists went to the Census Bureau and said, you need to create a category. You have got to distinguish us from whites. Up until that time, the Census Bureau mainly grouped Mexican Americans, Puerto Ricans, and Cubans in the same category as Irish and Italian, and that became a real problem because it couldn't show the government the poverty rates between the Mexicans and the whites. So now in the 1970s, they wanted to delineate. They wanted to delineate, and they wanted to make themselves into a minority group. Why? Because again, we coming out of the civil rights movement, going into the Black Power generation, all of that, of the 1970s. And so we were forcing the government to break bread. We were forcing our government to come up with policies and change some of these laws to benefit us. And we allowed them to slip in that word minority. And then the Hispanics started throwing up the bat signal that this was their cue to shuffle the cards and create a new group so that they could become a minority class rather than them being classified with the whites. They want to become a minority class so that they can get some of the benefits that were intended for us. This is how that 3-card Monte thing works. So they said you have to create a category. You have got to distinguish us from whites. Up until that time, the Census Bureau mainly grouped Mexican Americans, Puerto Ricans, Cubans in the same category as Irish and Italian. And that became a real problem because it couldn't show the government the poverty rates between the Mexicans and the whites. So they say, oh, yeah, they're classifying us with these people, but there's a wealth gap. There's a wealth gap. And so in order for us to address this wealth gap, we need a new category so that we can have resources allocated toward us specifically. Sound familiar? Do it sound familiar? So what this tells me is what we are doing is the correct thing. This is the correct political maneuver that we are doing. The socio-political maneuver that we are doing as far as delineation and all of that is the correct maneuver because this is a historical example of how it was successful. Right? This is a case study for how what we are doing now was successful in the past. Because it worked for them. Because remember in the other article that I just read, she was talking about how Hispanics, you know, they taking up, you know, all this big high percentage in the workforce. They opening up the most businesses. They doing so well. They passing the whites now. How did they do that? This is how they did it. This is how they did it right here, family. This is how they started to get their weight up. So there was a pushback on how large and how broad the category could be, but ultimately a Hispanic category was established. So this came about in the 1970s, family. This came about in the 1970s, but they talking about in the article that I just read, oh, we've been here since the 1500s. She said the Hispanics were here before the Pilgrims. But there was no such thing as Hispanics in the 1970s. So you see how they shuffle the deck? Do y'all see how they shuffle the deck? I'm just saying. Hold on, I'm gonna read some more in a minute. Let me see what y'all talking about in the comments. 1848 Treaty of Hidalgo. That's right. Some neighborhoods are mixed like Long Beach, Compton, South Bay. Okay. Okay, educate me, West Coast. Educate me, West Coast. They said PR and FBA didn't get along in the 70s. No. Don't get it twisted. I'm not saying everything was all kumbaya. You know what I'm saying? Especially in the boroughs and all of that. I don't know if you came on late, but I said I'm not from the borough. I'm not from the Bronx or Brooklyn and stuff like that. You know, they do have a thing called Spanish Harlem. So in the city, it might be a little more segregated than where I'm from, though. You know what I'm saying? I'm from upstate, Middletown, New York. So in the city, the neighborhoods were a little more segregated, but I'm talking specifically about where I grew up at. We were in the same neighborhoods. We were literally on the same streets, living in the same buildings, all of that. Blacks and Puerto Ricans, we grew up side by side where I'm from. That doesn't speak to the entire New York, especially New York City. So yeah, it's a little different. It's a little bit different. Shout out to my brother Rebel Balanta in the building. Second Ezra, I see you. All right, let me get back to this article right here. How was the category sold to Latin Americans? So how did you get all of these people who have these different identities to buy into this? Because again, Mexicans and Puerto Ricans didn't look at each other as the same people. Colombians and Dominicans didn't look at each other as the same people. You know, Cubans and Guatemalans, they don't all look at each other as the same people. So as they say, how did they get everybody to buy into this new category? How did they get everybody to say, okay, yeah, now we all going to identify as Hispanic? So the Census Bureau asked activists and the Spanish language media to promote the category. So again, media is warfare, family. Media is very powerful. This is why we do what we do. And new black media. This is why we have to create our own media apparatuses to create to propel our narrative into the national lexicon. You know what I'm saying? This is why we are the booster, the signal boosters of the new black media, to help generate our language and our talking points into the national lexicon until it becomes the new norm. All right. So again, this is a case study for how what we're doing has already worked for other people in the past. So the Census Bureau asked activists and the Spanish language media to promote the category. The media created documentaries and commercials. There was even a telethon where people called in and were encouraged to identify as Hispanic on the census form. Are we taking notes, family? FBA family, are we taking notes? Because we already doing some of this. Is there anything else that we need to be implementing? You said they was creating documentaries. They were creating commercials. They even had a telethon where people called in and they were encouraged to identify as Hispanic on the census form. So we can see why the media executives were so happy and so quick to help the Census Bureau, because later on it became in their interest to help grow that operation. Why? Because they saw this as an easy way to target a new consumer group. This is why the executives and the corporations was like, oh, yeah, this works for us. Yeah, we could do this. Right? So why was that? Until that time, Spanish language media executives had been creating separate television stations and programming for Mexican Americans, Puerto Ricans, and Cubans. So they wasn't even watching the same channels, y'all. They weren't even consuming the same media, y'all, because they have unique differences amongst each other. So they had specific media programming that was tailored to their uniqueness. Right? And so until that time, so they started to change all of that. Right? They started where was I? Suddenly, they were able to start using some of this broad census data and go to advertisers like McDonald's and Coca-Cola and say, look, we're a national Hispanic community. Our consumer needs are different. So invest in us and we will get you Hispanic consumer dollars. Are y'all picking up what they putting down? That's what I want to know. Are you picking up what they putting down? So with that strategy, they were able to connect stations across the country and over time create a Spanish language McDonald's commercial that could broadcast to a national audience. So no longer everybody watching all these different channels and got all this different programming going on. We got everybody watching the same channel. So now corporations could advertise to this one big group now, because fractionalized, these are smaller groups. So it's going to be hard if I have a television network and I'm just mainly have programming that is targeted to the Cuban Americans. My audience is not that big. So McDonald's ain't really going to be interested. They're like, oh, yeah, whatever. We ain't got enough people for us to invest type of dollars to make a Spanish speaking commercial and all that for you. You know, if I'm just promoting to just the Puerto Ricans or just the Mexicans or whatever, it's free. It's really not that much. So the corporations are like, nah, I'll pass. I'm good. Y'all better learn how to speak English. That's what McDonald's and Coca-Cola doing. Y'all better learn how to speak English and just watch the same channel as everybody else. Assimilate. Then when they created this new category and put everybody under the same umbrella, now they got numbers. Now they got numbers. Now they can say, well, shit, there's 50 million of us. Coca-Cola, McDonald's, we got an audience. There's 50 million of us. You might want to invest. All right? So Spanish language media also became an important platform to get the Hispanic political agenda out to communities, and activists were a regular feature on Spanish language newscasts. So they gave their activist platforms. You know what I'm saying? They created platforms for their activists to be able to get the messaging out there. For example, you need funding for bilingual education, you lobby the federal government, you testify before Congress. But if you can go on nightly network news and speak to your people in their language, the message really gets out then. All right? So people tell us, you know, why y'all doing a rally for reparations? Why y'all going out there and y'all just got people on the stage just yelling into the microphone? Why don't y'all go to Congress and file this paperwork and that paperwork? Why aren't y'all going directly to the government? No, we're going directly to our people with the message so that they can pick it up and it will spread naturally. Again, we're looking at a historical example of how the same strategy was already successful. New Black Media is on fire. Shout out to EJ. Lock Vegas. Shout out to Lock Vegas. Said this is great education. Appreciate you tapping in. Make sure that y'all hit the like button. It's 85 of y'all in the chat right now. Make sure that y'all hit that like button, family. Share this out on your social media platform and let everybody know that we live. We breaking down this identity shuffle, this game of 3-card Monte that the Latinos, Hispanics, and the Spanish-speaking people like to play with us. And why? We giving you the history behind why they do what they do. To be honest with you, I ain't mad at them. I ain't mad at them. Your culture, listen to me. That's that cold pressed watermelon juice. I had a yellow watermelon. I cold pressed that joint. That shit is so good. Pardon me. Damn, that shit good. But listen, I say this often. And again, I always give props to the master teachers where I got the knowledge from. Dr. Amos Wilson has taught us your culture is not something that's supposed to be static and just remain the same all the way into eternity. You're supposed to, your culture has to be swift and changeable because your culture is supposed to be an instrument for your group's empowerment. So you have to learn how to pick certain things up that are beneficial for you at that particular time and put other things down that no longer serve your interests. Right? And so I'm not mad at them for doing what's best for their group interests. That's what we're all supposed to do. We're all supposed to be doing what's best for our group interests. Again, Dr. Claude Anderson taught us what racism is. It's a competitive relationship between groups of people who are competing for resources, wealth, and power. So you're supposed to do whatever it takes to make your group become competitive. In order for your group to become competitive, you're going to need resources. In order for you to get resources, you're going to have to be politically astute, politically sophisticated, and understand how to maneuver and play as a team in order to get the resources that you're supposed to get so that you can empower yourself and your group. And that's what they was doing in the 1970s. And it was successful. I honestly think we're the largest ethnic group in the United States. Everybody that's white isn't white. Same thing for Latinos. Yeah, I don't know if you was on earlier. I was explaining that a little bit earlier. That's part of why they play this 3-card Monte game. Because when it's convenient, they'll be white real fast. Oh, when it's convenient, they know how to be white. You know what I'm saying? But check it out. So weren't Hispanics just being exploited to make a buck? On the one hand, there were executives selling the idea of a hot new consumer market. On the other hand, this hot new consumer market still has high poverty rates compared to other groups. But without the media, activists have a hard time getting the message out. If you look at, so that was quid pro quo right there. So they're saying, yeah, we was being exploited. We was exploiting our own group to a certain degree because they were huddling everybody up to become a big consumer group to be taken advantage of by the McDonald's and the Coca-Colas and all of that, right? But how are we supposed to get resources for ourselves if we can't get our messaging out there? So we need this media platform and we need these advertisement dollars in order to have a large enough platform to be able to spread this message so that we have this big, not only do we have this consumer base for the executives, we also have a listening audience for our message that we're trying to get out there, right? So it was a quid pro quo. If you look at Spanish language media right now, it's perhaps the #1 means of getting out information about immigration policy reform. Whereas other networks have moved on to the next hot topic, it's Spanish language media that's still reporting on the issue. So again, this goes back to what we're doing, because the mainstream media will mention reparations here and there, and then they'll move on to the next story. But it's us here in the new black media who are still on message, not changing the subject, still beating the drum, talking about reparations and tangibles for foundational black Americans. They'll mention it when it gets real hot in the news cycle, whatever the case may be, and then they move on to the next story. But we in the black media keep on subject, beating that drum. That's the same thing that they was doing. How did they bring together such a diverse group? The Spanish language media was key to creating a narrative about Hispanics. For example, one of the most popular Spanish language programs at the time was the Miami-based El Show de Cristina, billed as the Spanish language version of Oprah. On the set, Cristina might have a Colombian family, a Mexican family, and a Puerto Rican family talking about the difficulties of raising second-generation immigrant children or passing on Spanish language and traditions. This created an image that we were together, that we share the same problems, and that we are a community. So you see how powerful the media is, family? How did they get such a diverse group of people to come together? People that didn't see each other as being the same once upon a time, through the media, started to build common ground and see themselves as one community and get on code with each other through media messaging. So don't ever let anybody tell us that what we're doing isn't powerful, family. We're getting our people on code. We are getting our message out there. We're keeping our message out there, and we're getting our people on code. And this is a very, very, very important part of the movement. They're trying to get us off our square. Don't let them get us off our square. We're doing the right thing. So, weren't there enough Mexican Americans to warrant their own category? In the 1970s, this was fine if you wanted to capture the California governor's attention, but it wasn't enough for capturing President Nixon or President Ford's attention. And it certainly wasn't enough for capturing the attention of the East Coast politicians, because many of them have never even met a Mexican. And so that's true. We didn't start getting a lot of Mexicans where I'm from until like the mid to late 90s. It was just Puerto Ricans. Puerto Ricans was the predominant Latin community that we grew up with. Dominicans and all that stuff, they came later. Mexicans, Dominicans, Panamanians, all that, they came later. When I was growing up, it was just Puerto Ricans and us. And so, but when activists were able to cite the number of Cubans in Florida, Puerto Ricans in New York, Salvadorians in DC, and Mexicans in the Southwest, and when they were able to argue that these groups were all connected and were all in need of resources for job training programs and bilingual education, then they were onto something. It was only then that activists could get federal attention by making Latin America groups seem like part of a national constituency. So let me say this now. Let me say this now. And this is going to be up to us too. We have to incorporate this into our messaging in order to combat this basically hostile takeover, right? Because what Dr. Claude Anderson, what we're dealing with now is what Dr. Claude Anderson was trying to warn us about and warn our parents and our grandparents about 30, 40 years ago. He kept saying, if we're not able to get nothing as the number one minority group, imagine what we're going to be able, how difficult it's going to be able, imagine how difficult it's going to be for us to get anything as the number 4 minority group in the country. With them bringing all of these immigrants over here, Hispanic immigrants in particular, to pile them on top of us to become the new majority minority. This is what Dr. Claude Anderson was trying to warn us about, right? But we have to look at what they did here in the 1970s. They took a whole bunch of small groups, put them under one umbrella category called Hispanics to make them one large group. So now they can claim to be this majority minority, but in actuality, they're not, because this category is made up. It's an illusion. It's not real. This is not one group of people. This is not one group of people. So what we need to do is we need to break them back down into their true categories, because Mexicans and Puerto Ricans are not the same. Dominicans and Guatemalans and Cubans and Colombians and all of these people are not the same. This is not one ethnic category who they can say, well, they have more numbers than foundational Black Americans. No. Foundational Black Americans, we are one group. 43 million strong at least, if we go by what they say. I believe there's more. I know somebody was saying that in the comment section earlier, that they believe there's more of us. I believe there's more of us too. But even if we want to keep it at what they say, 43 million foundational Black Americans, we are one ethnic group. And so if you take away this illusion of a Hispanic pan-ethnic identity, then in actuality, we are still the number one minority group in the country. We are still the largest minority group in the country because we actually are one group of people. Foundational Black American freedmen. We are actually one group of people with the most numerical numbers. There's not 40 million Mexicans. There's not 40 million Puerto Ricans. There's not 40 million Colombians, Cubans, so on and so forth. They have to all form Voltron to pretend to be one minority group so they can say we the majority minority. We the number one minority group in the country. No, y'all not. We have to start debunking that myth, that misnomer. Family, that's our job. We got to start correcting that narrative and putting people in their proper categories. And so while we're out here advocating for a new category on the census, foundational Black Americans or freedmen, something that identifies us specifically from other melanated people that are here, that's a good thing that we're doing. But we should also be pushing for them to disaggregate this so-called Hispanic group and break them down into their own categories. Right? Because in actuality, we are still the largest minority group in the country. And they use that because they use that to try to deprioritize us, family. That's what Joe Biden was talking about on that Zoom call when he said, you're going to have to start learning how to get along with the Hispanics. That's what he was talking about. Ain't no Hispanics. You got Mexicans, you got Puerto Ricans, you got Dominicans, you got Cubans, you got Colombians, you got all these different Spanish-speaking groups who are not one ethnic group. They have their own ethnicities. They have their own unique cultures. And when you break them down into those fractions, they are small groups. And none of them should be prioritized over us because we are the foundation of this country and we are a numerical majority minority in this country. Even though, we don't refer to ourselves as minorities. But y'all understand the point that I'm trying to make. Y'all type a number 7 in the chat if you feel what I'm saying. Type a number 7 in the chat if you're picking up what I'm trying to put down. I want to make sure that I'm being clear here tonight. I want to make sure that the message is clear here tonight. So if you understand what I'm trying to say, type a number 7 in the chat. Right, just like them grouping together Caribbeans to make their hip-hop argument stronger. Are they really doing that, though? I don't think they're really doing that because really that's just the Jamaicans, China. Shout out to China Black. That's just the Jamaicans. I don't really hear people saying the Trinidadians created hip-hop or nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? Haitians ain't out here trying to say they created hip-hop. Maybe I missed something. Did I miss something? I think that's just the Jamaicans, if I'm not mistaken. Latinos are predominantly European, 65 to 80% Iberian DNA. Okay. Okay. They can't go to Europe, though. That's the thing. They can't go to Europe. We understand that they are basically a fixed mulatto group. Not to use that mulatto term in a derogatory way, but I'm just saying we understand that they're basically a fixed mulatto group. But if that's the case, so are like Arabs. If you do a DNA test on Arab people, they're gonna have a lot of European percentage too. You know what I'm saying? But they can't go to Europe though. You know what I'm saying? Mad Latinos were in NYC. Here in NYC, go to Spain. Mad Latinos in NYC go to Spain? What do you mean? Go to Spain and what? I mean, anybody could go to Spain, but the Spanish don't claim them, though. The Spanish don't claim them. Puerto Ricans are Arab genetically. Okay, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about. I'm not saying you're wrong. I don't know. There is a Black Latino community. Yeah, of course. Yes. There are Black Latinos. I think I opened up talking about that too. You know what I'm saying? You got Latinos that look like Ricky Martin, and you got Latinos that look like Carmelo Anthony or Fabulous, somebody like that. You know what I'm saying? Somebody like Fabulous or Carmelo Anthony, you wouldn't know that they was Puerto Rican or Dominican or whatever unless they told you. They just look like regular black dudes. So yeah, we know that there are Black Latinos, even in Latin America. That's what I was talking about. When you go to these Latin American countries, all of the Black people are in the barrios and the ghettos and in the favelas and all of that. They're the marginalized people in their home countries. That's why a lot of the white Latinos come over here with that same anti-Black racism that they practice back home. They come over here and practice that same shit against us. You know what I'm saying? And then that's where you get your crazy legs and shit like that from. Coming over here trying to be the new colonizers. No, they don't. No, they don't. Somebody trying to say the Spanish claimed the Latinos. No, they don't. That's a goddamn lie. That's a goddamn lie. They are Latinos. They are dark skinned as well. There are Latinos that are, yeah, we know that. But here's another thing about that too, right? Here's another thing about that. Because technically, Haitians are Latinos. You understand that? Technically, Haitians are Latinos. I think Haitians have the most African DNA of any group outside of Africa, if I'm not mistaken. I think genetically, Haitians have the most African DNA out of any group outside of Africa. It might be Brazilians, might be some of the Afro-Brazilians, but I think Haitians have the most, if I'm not mistaken. And technically, they're Latinos. Jamaicans, even Jamaicans technically are quote unquote Hispanic. They could fall into that category too. Did y'all know that? Did y'all know that? That's not true. That's not true. Gullah Geechees are 100% African DNA. That's not true. That's not true. Gullah Geechees of today have European admixture as well. Gullah Geechees of today, they have European admixture as well. Yes, some Haitians will tell you that they're Latino, but most people don't consider Haitians to be Latino, but technically they are. You never hear a Jamaican person calling themselves Latino or Latina, but technically they fall in that category too. That's why they have places in Jamaica like Spanish Town and what the hell is the name of that shit? What the hell is the name of that place over there? I got Rio de Janeiro in my head. Not Rio de Janeiro. That's in Brazil. But what's it called, y'all? Negril and a couple of other places. They got a lot of places over there in Jamaica that have Spanish names. Nobody is a color. Oh my God. Here we go. Here we go. Nobody is a color. Oh my God. I'm glad I'm getting ready to close this up. I'm glad I'm getting ready to end the broadcast because I smell some plebiscite babble coming in the chat. I smell some plebiscite babble coming in the chat. That's my cue. That's my cue. Listen. When we say that we black, we understand that we are not this color. My shirt is black, the color black. All right. We understand that when we say we black, we're not referring to ourselves as being this color. We know that. Okay? Black denotes that we are the original man. Just like all of the colors of all the colors in the color spectrum come from black, all of the human family comes from us. You know what I'm saying? So people just say, oh, black is a curse and all of this other shit. No, we don't say that we black because we cursed. We black because we first. Okay? That's the reason why we black, because we are the original man. Whatever. I'm black. I am black, sir. I am a foundational black American, sir. And we are the original man and woman of the planet Earth. All others came from us. Before there was ever a such thing as a Latino or a Hispanic, we were referring to ourselves as black people. So I'm not going to go back and forth about that. That's a whole nother thing. I'm not going to go back and forth about that. But I appreciate y'all tapping in with me tonight, though. I do want to say that. I definitely appreciate y'all tapping in with me tonight. I hope that this was constructive. I hope that we learned something here tonight. I hope that y'all take some of the messages back wherever you at and spread it. Use your platform, no matter how big or small it may be. Use your social media platforms, your YouTube channels, whatever the case may be, and help spread the message. You know what I'm saying? Help get the word out and boost this message until it becomes a part of the national lexicon and it becomes the new normal. Because what we are doing here is very important work, family. This is very important work. And so, yeah, again, man, I appreciate everybody tapping in tonight. Me and Nicety Girl, we're going to be back tomorrow, right? Today's Tuesday. Yeah, I believe we got somebody tomorrow for another episode of the Black Business Showcase. I'm not sure who it is offhand, but on Wednesdays, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have our weekly series called the Black Business Showcase, where we bring on business owners and entrepreneurs, and we interview them about what they got going on and just chop up good game about business. So if you are a business owner or entrepreneur and you would like to have your stuff featured on our channel, hit me up in the DM or hit up my co-host Nicety Girl. I'm at Sincere Love to God on all social media platforms. Follow her. She's at Nicety Girl with the number 1 on Instagram and without the number 1 on X, formerly known as Twitter. Or you can send us an email at godcastenterprises@gmail.com. Let us know about your business and we'll see what we can do to get you on the schedule for the Black Business Showcase. That's it, family. But always remember and never forget, we are not the master teachers, but we are the master students and signal boosters for the voices of the new Black media. Hit that like button on your way out of here. Peace and Black love.
Yeah, like that. Let's see what's in the God's mind. Listen.